Oral questions by members.
Member for Prince George Whalemount.
The BC Coroner Service has reported that 435 young people have taken their own lives in just 4 years. Half of those children and youth had involvement with the Ministry of Children and Families. Will this Premier stand up today and admit he has failed young people?
Minister of Children and Family Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The coroner's report was devastating. As a mom of young people, my heart goes out to any family that experiences a young person that's having mental health challenges or who devastatingly takes their life. We take the coroner's report very seriously. We are working across ministries on recommendations. That work will be ongoing. We take it very seriously and happy to work with the member opposite as well.
Member supplemental.
Let me repeat for the minister. Half of these children who died by suicide were involved with MCFD. These children were failed by MCFD and failed by this government. I have stacks and stacks of reports, inquiries, and investigations into MCFD calling for substantial changes into how this ministry operates. When will this ministry finally make changes that protect BC children, youth, and families?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. There is nothing I take more seriously than the safety and well-being of every single child in this province. Every single day that I get up, we are working on improvements in my ministry. My Deputy Minister chairs the Deputy Minister's Project Board. We are working across government on a comprehensive child and youth well-being plan and outcomes framework. I meet with the representative of children and youth regularly. It is devastating that any child or youth is struggling in our province. We are working every day to make investments in child and youth mental health, investing in foundries across our province, making sure that children and youth have wraparound supports, making more investments for young people through our SAGE program, ensuring that young people have a good start to life. There's always more work to be done, Honourable Speaker. It is never okay that any child is struggling. I will work hard every single day that I have the privilege of being in this role to make sure we're doing everything we can to change the trajectory of children's lives.
Member for Chilliwack, Curtis Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We live in a time right now where the leading cause of young people today is overdose. I'm beyond angry at the failures of this government to address this issue. I've shared already how personal this is for me, for my family, and for my community. And I don't know how many funerals members have had to go to for young people in their lives who've died alone because of toxic drugs. But I've attended way too many. The Premier said that decriminalization is a failure. I completely agree. So what are we waiting for to end decriminalization and so-called safe supply? What are we waiting for to end this madness in our province today?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for consistently bringing her passion, her advocacy, and her lived experience into this House. What makes this House stronger is having people like her and others who bring these voices into this place. It is so vitally important that we listen to them and that we recognize the impacts that these devastating losses have had on us, on our loved ones, on our communities. Mr. Speaker, this government continues to place this as one of our highest priorities, especially when talking about youth. the young ones, the people that we care about, that we love, that we want to do everything we can to intervene early, to prevent small problems from becoming bigger ones, from providing the access to mental health supports, to treatment, recovery, and more. Mr. Speaker, that's why we have maintained such a dogged focus on programs like the Road to Recovery, building a seamless continuum of mental health and substance use supports, providing supports that are tailored for Indigenous peoples, that are provided for youth, that are provided for people in industries where substance use is seen at higher rates. Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to use every tool that we can, knowing that there is no one magic bullet here, but it is going to take determination, it is going to take persistence, and it is going to take each and every one of us working on this together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member supplemental.
The minister talks about prevention and acting early. 126 youth died from the last coroner's report, and we have yet to see how many more we've lost to this toxic drug crisis that we're facing. Yet a member on that side says discouraging drug use among children is quote unquote concerning. And I find it deplorable that schools had to send very clear messages to students when decriminalization hit that it was still quote unquote not legal for them. I believe that moment in time speaks volumes to where we're at today. You cannot have it both ways. We see it today, the Premier saying one thing downtown to a crowd, and then the member in this House saying quite a different message. So if you really want to work across party lines, and you really want to work together, here's your chance. End decriminalization today. There's no wrong time to do the right thing. And I'm asking the Premier directly, what are you waiting for?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you again to the member. The member cites numbers, and any number higher than 0 is too high. Again, this is a devastating crisis that requires us to put all our time and attention and use the tools that we have before us to make the investments that are needed, the investments in young people, the investments in people of all ages, and doing everything we can for early intervention in schools with age-appropriate programs, with mental health and addiction services that meet the needs of people at the age that they are at, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue to do that. That's why we've continued to build out services and increase access to specialized treatment, for example, building out foundry centres where youth can come together, integrated child and youth teams that help assist youth at times when they need it most. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to stop doing that. Decriminalization has been a tool to help reduce some of the stigma. We know that it has made it easier for some people to seek the supports and the access that they need and overcome some of the barriers. We're always monitoring the programs, the initiatives that we've taken, and we've shown the responsiveness to changing because we know that other issues remain a high priority for communities. For example, the safety of people on our streets. Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to take a cross-government approach, ministries working together to attack this problem every single day so that we do not lose more people, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituents on Salt Spring Island are days away from a crisis. Island Health is cutting funding for overtime and agency staffing in long-term care and assisted living. Elder care residences on Salt Spring and across the province just got 1 month's notice of the change. This decision will have severe consequences for seniors, their loved ones, healthcare workers, and communities like Ganges. We know that cutting funding from one area puts pressure on another area of the system. We know that hospitals and housing are already stretched past their limits. Caregivers can't do their jobs when your government creates so much uncertainty and so little future-oriented planning. My question is to the Minister of Health. Will you postpone the long-term care funding cuts and work with the care sector to establish a fair and sustainable funding model for long-term care and assisted living?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. Thank you for the conversation that we had earlier on this week, where he shared with me some of the details of what he is hearing from his constituents and from this facility in question, and I look forward to visiting Salt Spring Island together with him very soon. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by acknowledging just how hard long-term care facility operators and the staff in them have worked to support our seniors and how incredibly vital that is. Mr. Speaker, they've done so much to keep people safe, particularly during the pandemic, but then of course now as well. And as the member knows, we've talked about in this House before, these were temporary measures that were brought in at an extraordinary time always meant as an emergency measure, but I know that the theme the third party has brought to the House this week is around reliability, and I couldn't agree more. Building a sustainable, reliable system that is not reliant on temporary measures. Mr. Speaker, that's why we're addressing the root causes of why that funding was needed in the first place. Mr. Speaker, that is around training more healthcare assistants, adding more healthcare aides to the workforce, paying them fairly, Mr. Speaker, improving conditions across the sector, raising the standards and making sure that we are meeting them, because there is nothing more important than taking care of the people who need this help and support the most. Thank you.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Healthcare isn't the only sector where British Columbians have been thrown into uncertainty. When this government cancelled the carbon tax in the middle of the night, they took away funding for an essential stipend that hundreds of thousands of low-income British Columbians rely on. With social and disability assistance rates well below the poverty line, thousands of people use that money to pay for rent and put food on the table. The carbon tax was a victim of weak-kneed politics and conservative fear-mongering. But boy, was it a good program. Combating climate change by making polluters pay. What a concept. Cutting the government's record deficit by bringing in $3 billion every year. Wow, that's a good idea. And yes, putting money in the pockets of BC's most vulnerable. My question is to the Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. First, you cut the grocery rebate, then the climate action tax credit. Why are you making British Columbians' poorest citizens pay the price for your government's fiscal mismanagement and failure to lead?
Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. We are in a time of such uncertainty, chaos from the United States putting jobs at risk and the cost of living putting even more pressure on people, that I'm so glad that the investments that our government has been making, guided by our poverty reduction strategy, British Columbia's first, and then our updated strategy last year, has put people in so much better place to be able to withstand tough times right now. That income assistance is up 74% since we formed government in 2017. In contrast, you'll remember that the Conservative leader, when his government was in power, they'd frozen income assistance rates for a decade. Where before the senior supplement had been frozen again, we doubled it and then expanded it again. And we're on an emergency basis, and any member of the public on income assistance who's having trouble getting by, please do reach out. We've got supports that are available, whether it's for food or making rent or medical supplements. We want to support people at this really challenging time, and we've got the system to do that.
Leader of the Fourth Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since the NDP formed government in 2017, it has flooded 1 million immigrants into British Columbia. The excess population has driven wages of BC workers down. It has surged demand for our healthcare system, with ER wait times reaching 14 hours. 1 million British Columbians don't even have a family doctor. Housing is unaffordable. Schools are crowded and teachers are overwhelmed. The Premier has admitted that the temporary foreign worker program has negatively impacted our economy and our social fabric. Mr. Speaker, will the Premier get on the phone today and demand that Mark Carney immediately suspend all immigration to British Columbia?
Minister of Jobs and Economic Growth.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. Again, won't be surprised at this House because we've been discussing this for over 3 years, whether it's the Premier, whether it was myself when I was the Minister of Housing. We were advocating to the federal government to ensure that we have immigration numbers that align with the social services we have, with housing that we have in our communities. And we were doing that because, A, we want to make sure people here are set up for success, but we also want to make sure that the people that we're welcoming, the talent from around the world that we're welcoming here, have a chance to have the same quality of life that we all want for our kids. It's not fair to be able to invite people from all over the world and say to them, we don't have housing. It's not fair to invite people from all over the world and say, we don't have the social services you need. We need to build both of them up at the same time. Now, Honourable Speaker, what we're saying is we need to do it in a thoughtful way, and the federal government has made some changes. We respect that, and we're urging them to make more. We're urging them to make changes to the LMI program because we know there's fraud in the system. So if the member wants to advocate for reforms, meaningful reforms, then we're open to it. But the rhetoric that comes from this member, and they know what they're doing. It's a dog whistle. We know what they're doing. They're trying to incite racism. So I know the member's going to get really upset and she's going to say, I'm not racist. I'm not saying the member's racist. I'm saying her supporters think that she's racist. That's what I'm saying.
Member supplemental.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. On September 5th, the Premier himself called for an end to the temporary foreign worker program. So is he and the other minister calling himself engaging in racism?
Members, no crosstalk. Member has the floor. Please continue.
But the truth is, Mr. Speaker, the Premier isn't even calling me or my questions racist. He's calling Canadians racist for wanting to have a border. We are just in the way. The Premier's admission that the temporary foreign worker program should be terminated is not enough. According to the National Post, quote, nearly half of all Canadians believe that mass deportations are necessary to stop illegal migration.
Members, please let her finish. Member, please continue. Member, please continue.
Thank you. Canadians don't just want to put an end to immigration. They want governments to deal with existing illegal migrants, such as people who are overstaying their visas. This is reflected in polls. My question, yes or no, does the Premier support deporting migrants who are here illegally, as do 50% of Canadians?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'll continue in the frame that was in my previous answer, which is, actually, Honourable Speaker, it's sad to see that we're in this state right now. It's sad to see that we have a party that says they're one party, but they're actually pretending to be the People's Party of Canada, Honourable Speaker. If the member wants to reform immigration, we're open to having conversations. We've been urging the federal government to do that. But I don't know why the member sees people that look like me, that have my skin color, as such a threat. We are born here in Canada, and I know the member doesn't see the difference between the two, but we all have an opportunity to contribute to this country. It doesn't matter where you come from. We're a room full of immigrants, unless you're an Indigenous representative here. We all come here for a better life. That's what we all should be fighting for. It's a sad state of affairs to see this party running as the new racist party in British Columbia.
Member for West Kelowna Peachland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A business owner in Pitt Meadows was brutally attacked by two men with baseball bats in front of his wife and daughter on his own driveway. His wife tried to protect him and was pushed over. He's since fled the country to keep his family safe, fearing the attackers will, quote, finish the job. People are afraid and have to flee this province to protect themselves because this government can't. To the Solicitor General, when will this government put citizens before criminals?
Solicitor General.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and my thanks to the member for the question. Incidents of violence are deeply concerning and absolutely unacceptable. We all have the same goal, which is to keep people and communities safe. Our actions are starting to make a difference. We have seen overall crime severity drop in BC, representing the largest drop in the country. This does not mean that there is not more work to do, and any incidents of violence is deeply concerning. That is why this government is so deeply committed to providing police with the resources that they need to tackle crime, in particular violent crime, standing up programs such as Revoy to monitor repeat violent offenders, standing up programs such as C-STEP and SIGHT to address the challenges of our time that we're seeing in communities around violence and also property crime that I've heard other members speak to. We will continue to do this work, supporting law enforcement to keep our communities safe.
Member for Richmond Queensborough.
Despite the minister's answers, people are fearing crime more than ever, such as the community from the South Asian community is fearing extortion more than ever. While this government refuses to discourage drug use in schools, its own resources walk kids through how to use hard drugs. Normalizing drug use doesn't make it safer, it makes it inevitable. When will this minister stop teaching kids how to use drugs?
Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And I want to be very, very, very clear to the member and to every person in this House that we absolutely teach kids that drugs are bad and that that harmful substances can be dangerous to them. To somehow imply that that is not happening in our schools is not only dangerous to our students and to their safety, it's just simply not true. I know every single person in this House, Honourable Speaker, wants to keep kids safe. That is what we do, Honourable Speaker. We want to make sure that our schools are safe and welcoming environments where students feel confident, safe enough, secure enough that they can talk to a trusted adult, a fellow peer, anyone to support them in that school system. To continue, for the members opposite to continue to stigmatize and scare children rather than educate.
Members, members, order. Minister.
Rather than educate and support them is really unfortunate, Honourable Speaker. Thank you.
Members, before I recognize the next member, just a caution to members, that bill is in front of the House. People, if you want to ask a question like that, ask in a general way, but not specifically to the bill. Thank you. Member for Abbotsford South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and all due respect to the Education Minister. If she wants to drop by my office, I will show her the literature, and she can go through page 11 where it teaches kids supporting safer substance use. With the greatest of respect, it is being taught in schools. That being said, Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind this House of the syringe holdup in Smithers, where a store owner was terrorized at needlepoint in front of children. That very same criminal, with over 30 convictions, Mr. Speaker, is now running loose back on the street, wanted again, yet, surprise, surprise, nowhere to be found. My question through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier: how many chances does a violent repeat offender get before this Premier will stand up and finally put public safety ahead of criminals?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been a top priority of this government to make sure that the Criminal Code of Canada keeps our community safe across this country. In fact, BC has been a leader in putting on the federal agenda changes to the criminal code that we know we need to make to keep our community and our country safe. Mr. Speaker, I was just speaking to the Minister of Justice federally. The Prime Minister announced specific changes to the criminal code. We heard that they would be introducing it tomorrow in the House. And some of those things I'm watching for are BC-specific asks related to repeat offenders, extortion, intimate partner violence, and a range of other things that will help keep our communities safe. We've been advocating and leading on this, Mr. Speaker, and we'll keep doing that work.
Member for Surrey North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every week, there is a shooting in Surrey. Every week, we get same speech from NDP. It's not only Bishnoi gang, another gang are also arriving in Surrey. We need safety, not speeches. When will this Premier take real action ahead of the politics?
Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. I know that people in Surrey are deeply concerned about the gun violence that we have seen recently, in particular the threats and the violence related to extortion. Extortion has national and international dimensions, but a very profound local impact. I've spoken to business owners and families who've been profoundly affected by threats and even violence. That's why we are doing everything we can to support the police to ensure that they have the tools to bring these criminals to justice. This work is producing tangible results. There were recently 7 arrests and charges laid in Surrey. We've stood up a provincial task force dedicated to extortion, the first such task force in the country, to ensure that there's a coordinated response to law enforcement efforts. The Premier and BC led the charge to call for the Bishnoi gang to be designated as a terrorist entity. To provide police with more tools, as many tools as possible, that they need to hold these perpetrators to account.
Thank you, Minister.
This targeted work that we've done to combat extortion. No, this is it's an important question.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There seems to be quite a massive disconnect from what's happening in our province and what is happening with this government. question after question we have asked, and the Minister of Education says they are doing everything to make sure our kids are safe. Our kids aren't safe. They're not. We've shown that with MCFD. We've shown that in the fact that we brought forward a bill in terms of educating our children on the effects of drugs. And what do we get from that side of the house? We get, it's discouraging drug use among children, it's concerning. We have the Premier go to Vancouver and say that decriminalization has been a failure. The Minister of Health gets up 20 minutes ago and advocates for its continuance. What are we doing? The fact is, this Premier says one thing, and his cabinet and his MLAs will say another. My question is direct to the Premier. Decriminalization. He stood and he called it a failure. Will he stand in this House today, say those exact same words, and will he commit today to end it immediately? Yes or no? Not a speech, a yes or a no. Will you do it today?
Member, that's enough. Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, keeping our kids safe is a crucial priority, and I hope and assume it's a priority of every member in this House. And it doesn't matter whether it's in relation to exposure to drugs that could kill them, exposure to predators online, exposure to vaping, exposure to bullying for who they are. All of us have to share that core commitment to keeping kids safe. And I think all of us do. Now, there have been some challenges. I'll acknowledge that. I mean, I don't think Pink Shirt Day is controversial.
I didn't ask about Pink Shirt Day, I asked you to end decriminalization.
When I think
Members, member, please. Premier has the floor.
When I think about what turns kids to gangs or to substance use or to self-harm, including suicide, it's being bullied, it's being alienated, told they're not valuable, they're not worthy. I haven't met a single person who struggles with addiction who hasn't had that kind of trauma. And so I would call on all of us, do our best to work together to support kids, including recognizing who they are, holding up their value as human beings, not using them as political pawns, and making sure that we're standing up for teachers.
Stop it.
You know what?
Members, that's enough.
Hockey bags of money by drug dealers were brought into casinos while you guys were on this side of the House. So spare me the crime control arguments. Spare me the crime control arguments.
Members, no crosstalk.
This is hard stuff. We got to stand up for our kids. We got to support our kids and thank the teachers and the educators who grapple with these issues every single day, and the parents who encounter a challenging environment like parents have never seen before, between toxic drugs, social media challenges, bullying online.
Member for Richmond Centre.
These are issues of our time, and they deserve better than the treatment of the opposition, Honourable Speaker.
The bell ends the question period.